Well,
Okay.
welcome to the Sean Newman podcast. I'm joined tonight by Carly Agro.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks so much for asking me. I always do the double L, the Lloyd love. That was our thing when I lived there. So I'm happy to be back and connected to the Lloyd monster, as I like to call it.
The Lloyd Monster. Is that the way you remember it?
Hey, the true story about the Lloyd monster is that was how I first saw the word Lloydminster in my life. It was posted on a job posting on Canada Media Job Board. And honest to goodness, it was spelled incorrectly. And I distinctly remember saying to one of my friends in grad school, I have to apply for this job, A, because it's a sports job, and B, because it's in a place called Lloyd Monster. And I just want to be able to tell people that one day I lived in Lloyd Monster. And then, of course, I learned that no, it's not Lloyd Monster, it's Lloydminster. So that's the true story, the Lloyd Monster.
How disappointed were you when you learned it wasn't Lloyd Monster?
Well, and then I have also spent the last however many years it's been since I lived there correcting everyone and telling them it's not Lloydminster, it's Lloydminster. So, I mean, monster would have been more fun, but I still am correcting people on how you say it. So, what can I say?
You remember when you accepted that job? Your journey? Did you drive out or did you fly?
Oh my gosh. I remember everything. I remember I was pretty broke because I had graduated from my journalism new media program and I'd been working for the Ticats actually. And I say the word working meaning like I worked, but I didn't get paid. I got like a $1,500 stipend for working for an entire CFL season. And then I begged my mom to cover the bill so that I could go cover the Grey Cup that year. So I was broke as a joke. And I had been working for the Ticats like from 9 to whatever. And then I would go work at a sports bar in Burlington where I grew up. So I remember packing up. I was just so excited that I got a job because, I mean, nowadays it's even harder, but I was just so excited I got a job in sports doing what I wanted to do. And I've lived all over, so I was pumped just to get out of my parents' house. And I packed up everything I owned in 2 wardrobe boxes and I shipped those out and then I flew. And I actually picked up a car. God bless this car dealership. I think it was in Vermilion. I had arranged to get my new car in Vermilion. I don't know. So anyways, that was how I got out. And then I was really lucky because my twin sister was actually living in Edmonton at the time. So in some crazy twist of fate, my sister was in Edmonton after she had lived all over for work. And then she was able to kind of help me get settled in Lloydminster. And I lived on both the Saskatchewan and the Alberta side in my time.
Well, you are in good company there. I think a lot of people switch sides just to see if it feels different.
No, I switched sides because I made the mistake when you're making what you make working in television when you first get started. I learned the hard way that living on the Alberta side was not the cost-effective move. And I also learned very quickly that you never want to live in an apartment near a 4-way stop in Alberta or Saskatchewan because all of the diesel pickup trucks, when they're coming to a 4-way stop and then proceeding, I didn't get
The
a lot
haul
of
ass
sleep.
afterwards.
Oh my gosh. I did not get a lot of sleep when I lived in that place.
You know,
So,
we live on a busy corner in the right beside apartment buildings.
but are
And
you on the Alberta side or the Saskatchewan side?
Alberta side.
Okay.
And I haven't learned my lesson yet.
Yeah.
And and the trucks rip off in the morning. And I was just saying to you before we started, 3 kids, 4 and under. There's been a couple times where there's been some choice words come out of my mouth because, it's a very unique thing to this area. I assume you've been all over the world now.
Oh yeah, there's nothing quite like it. And it's one thing like when you're waking up hungover from a night at the cooler to that sound. It's another thing when it's one of your toddlers that you just got down to sleep. So I feel ya.
You missed. Was the cooler still hopping while you were here?
Oh, we put the hop in when it came to the cooler when I lived there, or at least I thought we did.
It's not going anymore. The cooler is toast.
I'm sad to hear that.
Yeah, there's hardly a bar going. Amigos is back going.
What about the creepy country place that did the pierogies at like 2 a.m.?
Oh.
I can't remember the name of it.
Oh my God.
It was in a basement.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Ezzy's.
That's the one. As he's on the border. Yep.
Yeah, it's no more either.
Oh, well, I can't move back then.
Believe me, half the town left.
Oh, that's
Like,
a bummer though. Oh,
no cooler,
good
no
memories.
Ezzy's.
Oh no, that's heartbreaking. Oh man, I hope the Winners is still there because that got me through my time in Lloyd.
The Winners?
The Winners. That was the only place I could afford to shop. That and the Sears in the Lloyd Mall.
Sears is gone. Winners is still here.
Yes.
Getting you all caught up on everything Lloyd. You know, hearing you talk about how broke you were.
Yeah.
When I first came back, I wanted to get into radio, and I got steered away for that exact reason. Was there was no money in it. Everybody says there's no money in it, blah, 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 blah. And when you first started, did your parents try and maybe be like, maybe you should try something, or was it not that way?
No, you know what? I was really lucky that my parents, it wasn't so much that they encouraged me because I'm so stubborn. So I kind of knew that this was what I had got this idea. You know what? Mr. Mulligan calls it, he's got the aha moment. He kind of coined the term. You know Kyle's dad, Mr. Mulligan?
Absolutely.
Okay. So he taught me this phrase when I had already had an aha moment, and I didn't know I had an aha moment until he kind of coined the phrase for me. But I had went to school in Baltimore, Maryland. So I had played college soccer in the States. And I had been working as an intern at WBAL TV. I'm sure. Oh, see, look, I got my Ravens one on here. So this is from when I was in Baltimore. Anyway, so I'd been working at WBAL TV doing this internship, and I got asked to go down and cover a baseball game. The Orioles were hosting the Oakland A's, and there was a pitcher making his major league debut. And my producer had said to me, like, Agro, don't screw this up. Our affiliate in Oakland wants this post-game sound of this guy named Dallas Braden. And he was making his major league debut, so it was a really big deal for our NBC affiliate in Oakland. So they sent me down. Long story short, I'm absolutely crapping my pants. I've done all the Google searches I can do. Like, I could tell you what Dallas Braden looks like to a T. I go in the Orioles room, and it was awful. Everybody was mean to me. I didn't know what I was doing. At the time, Amber Theo Harris was working for Masson. And I just remember watching her being like, I'm not that cool. They can tell I don't know what I'm doing.
How old are you?
Oh, gosh. I was still in school. So I was probably 22, I think.
22 in a major league.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all the pressure's on me. So the camera guy says to me, he's like, Agro, I don't know who this guy is or what he looks like, so you better not miss him. So I do all the stuff in the Orioles room, and then he's like, we better get to the visitors, or we're cooked. Like, it hadn't even clicked to me that, like, oh yeah, they might take off pretty quickly because they're the visiting team. And so we go into the visitors room, and it's just like a mess. There's crap everywhere. It's dirty. And there's like 2 players left in there, and Dallas Braden is definitely not one of them. And the cameraman's looking at me like, Agro, do not F this up because we can't go back empty-handed. So like we're in a tunnel, and like by this time I'm sure I'm like profusely sweating and then just like a hot mess. And so I don't know how or what, but like I see him. I was a goalkeeper in college soccer, so like I used like my goalkeeper voice, and I was just like, Dallas Braden, like some crazy BIT you know what is screaming at him in a tunnel in Baltimore, and he stops and he turns around. And I just like ran up to him, and like I said to the camera guy, I was like, okay, Ken Brown, like this is him, let's go. And then it was just the best. It was the best. I got such a rush, and I nailed it. Like, I don't know what it is about being under pressure, but like that's when I do my best work. And I just nailed it. I had this awesome conversation with this guy. He was so excited to talk about his debut. I had made this cool connection between him and the guy who caught for him that night, and how they went back to college or something like that. I don't know. So he was like responsive to me, and I was responding to him. And like, I felt like I just hit a home run, like knocked it out of the park. And then like that night, I remember on the train, I used to have to take the light rail home in Baltimore. If you've ever seen The Wire, you don't want to have to do that. I used to have to take the light rail and then like a city bus back to my college apartment. And I remember I called my mom on the light rail and she's like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" I think she thought I got like robbed or something. And I was like, "No, Mom, I had like the best night ever." She's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Well, I think I know what I want to do." She's like, "Well, like you already did the soccer thing. I think it's a little late to do baseball." I was like, "No, Mom, like I think I want to be a reporter. Like this was great." And so she was just like, "Well, great, just keep saying yes and see what happens." And so that was a really long story and I guess way of me answering your question that
once you knew what you wanted.
Yeah, it just like in that moment, like it just clicked. I was like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do now. So, and my mom and my dad were always just kind of like, they never said no to me. I went to school in Miami. I went to school in Baltimore. I traveled, I lived, I moved, like they'd never heard of Lloydminster. I was going out there by myself. Like they were just kind of like, encouraging, and they never said no. I mean, I didn't really give them a chance, but, yeah. So once I kind of got bit by the bug, I just kept going like full steam ahead.
Your twin sister.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, how is it having a twin first off?
Oh my gosh, how much time do we have?
We got plenty. Do you got like cool like random stories of like weird twinning things?
Not really. There was one time when I was lost and she said I was in a store with bracelets and apparently I was, but no, what the biggest thing is for the two of us, I think, is just that because we some way somehow wound up kind of in the same line of work, we've always been really competitive. And so we're both each other's like biggest cheerleader, but also like a sounding board. I can ask her something that I can't ask anybody else, and she gives me a really honest opinion, and I trust her judgment. So that's been really cool, having someone that
for the listeners, tell them what your sister does, because chances are most people in this area, I assume, are like me, and I had no idea you had a twin sister. And if they do, they probably don't realize she's very successful.
Yeah, so she is one of the hosts for CBC Marketplace. So she is an investigative reporter for CBC. If you've heard of the Subway story, the chicken DNA story, have you heard of that one?
I can't say I have.
No, okay. Well, that was probably one of her biggest ones because Subway launched like a $250 million lawsuit against her, and my sister won. So, so she's a hardcore news junkie.
No, we got to back this up. You can't bring up the Subway chicken, a huge lawsuit, and then not at least explain it.
They found that the Subway chicken, and don't quote me on this because don't sue me too, but it was like 48% chicken DNA. So she did a bunch of testing, scientific testing from a bunch of fast food chicken places, a bunch of different foods. You can still see the episode. It's on Marketplace. Saturday Night Live wound up doing a skit about it. Time Magazine picked it up. Like it was on the Today Show. It was a huge
scandal.
Yeah. So, that's what she does. She's like the hardcore news junkie.
I'm glad I got you to explain that, because my brain, as soon as you said Subway chicken, didn't go to Subway chicken. It went to a chicken in a Subway. And I was like, I don't know. No, that makes a lot of sense now. Yeah. So I'm just the dummy going, Subway chicken, what?
That's okay. So now you know. So yeah, that's my twin sister. So it's
pretty crazy then that you're now on Sportsnet and she is on CBC Market. Like that's really successful for two twins. And before that, it never like dawned on you, because obviously she had started down that path before you.
Yeah, she had always known that she wanted to do journalism. Like she majored in English when she was in university. I thought I was going to go to law school. So
Carly Agro, the lawyer.
Mm-hmm. So I had an internship set up in DC, and then it fell through at the last minute at a firm. And my sister said to me, well, why don't you call your local NBC affiliate and shadow the political reporter, and you'll meet some, that way you'll be around, you'll make some good connections. And even though you're not necessarily in a a law firm, you'll be around people who are making legal decisions and around legal minds. So, so that was what I did. And then the sports department at WBAL knew that I had played D1 college soccer. So whenever they were down a man, they would say to me, "Hey, Agro, like, you want to do us a favor?" And I just said yes to everything. I thought I was great. So that was how I got to do the Raven stuff, and I got to go do Orioles stuff, and I got to go do I got my my MLS Cup, which was in Washington, D.C., which was really cool. So yeah, it just kind of all happened, not necessarily by accident. Like, I said yes to everything.
But you also put yourself in, a unique position to, you didn't get the internship. So then you're very motivated. You can just hear that. You follow some reporters around, and then all of a sudden they start asking you to go do sports things. That's pretty crazy. That's how you got into what you're currently in. Is by an off chance you get to go cover a baseball game, right?
Well, and I think a lot about it, like, now that we're talking about it, I think a lot of it is to maybe not necessarily like first impressions, but when you have an opportunity, like, nailing it. So, like, I remember after I had worked in Lloyd, Dave Mitchell was the sports director at CTV Edmonton, and I know I had applied for the job. I can't remember if it was Natasha Stanishevsky who had left, like, why there was an opening. I think it was because she had left. Anyway, so I had applied, and then he brought me in, and I could tell, like, they were really skeptical about hiring me. But I went in for
how can you tell? What do you mean?
Well, because God love Dave. I owe him a lot, because I think he's a big reason why I got the chance to even interview there. But I had to go and interview with the news director, Glenn Kubish, who's a brilliant journalism news mind. Anybody who knows CTV Edmonton respects Glenn Kubish. And so Dave was saying to me, like, you're really going to have to nail it with him. Like, Coob's no joke. Like, he's really serious about, good storytelling, and he's, like, he's very performance. Like, he doesn't miss a beat, Coob. Like, Coob is the all-knowing, all-seeing. So I think he was worried about sending me in there, and, like, how is she going to do? And, like, I had some story ideas to pitch him. Like, I was prepared. I had prepped. And I really think I went in and nailed it. Like, I don't know if Coop would say the same thing, but I wound up getting the job. So I guess I didn't do that bad. So that's what I mean. Like, when you have a chance, like, you go and you make the most of it, and, like, you prepare for it, and you set yourself up for the success. You can't just leave it to chance, like with the Dallas Braden thing. I had done the research and the prep, and then, with my interview with Coob, I had done the research and the prep, and I had asked my friends in the business, like, what are they going to ask me? How do I prepare? So, I think it's a lot of it is, making the most of an opportunity when you get one.
It's, you always fall back on your level of preparation.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't it Oprah. Her thing was like, there's no such thing as luck. It's preparation meeting opportunity. So, go figure, she had $1 million idea with that one.
That is the first Oprah quote I've ever had on the podcast.
You're welcome.
Well, she's one of the most successful, maybe the most successful sit-down host of all time.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair to say.
I can't think of... Yeah, there's not too many in her league. She's the Michael
crazy...
Jordan of...
Small world, but the lady who I worked on the assignment desk in Baltimore used to drive Oprah to work.
What?
Yeah. I'm not making that up. It's so true. Everybody in the office knew it, and we were all like, all hail Beverly Epstein, because she used to help Oprah. Like, yeah. So, small world. It's amazing, like, the connections that you make along the way. Like, it's crazy.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. Well, this podcast is case in point to that. I started out with... Well, I'll put it this way. I started out by interviewing the guy who rented this building. Good friend of mine, Ken Rutherford. Huh. And that name probably means nothing to you, which is okay.
No. What does he do, Mr. Rutherford?
He is an appraiser in town. Runs an appraisal business.
Okay.
And
So
then he
didn't he
teaches that.
sponsor a Chuck Wagon tarp or something?
Oh no! Well, nah, I can't put that past Ken, but there probably
Okay.
is other Rutherfords in town.
Okay.
But the reason I say it is I literally sat down because he helped me do the studio. And
Hmm.
so I'd been, sitting there and I just turned the computer on and recorded it because I was like, I don't know if this is going to be good or not. And then we put it out. And the next
Mhm.
interview, I was supposed to do a guy. He couldn't make it that night. So I interviewed my dad. That's where this
Oh, nice.
started. Oh, yeah, it was
Oh,
fantastic.
cool.
And then, now, I mean, I got Carly Agro on. That's pretty cool.
Well, but the Lloydminster connections for me, like even in my own career, this is why whenever anybody talks about Lloydminster, I have nothing but positive, wonderful things to say. Like it really was a jumping off point for me. And like I can connect everywhere I've been back to Lloyd. Like even when I worked, so then I got a job at CTV Edmonton. And I remember when the Flyers were in town to play the Oilers, I always went into the pregame skates because they were early in the morning on Saturdays, and I don't really think a lot of the other guys wanted to do it, but I got a kick out of it. So anyways, the Flyers were in town, and this was when all the oh my gosh, crazy goalie, oh my gosh, remember the T on the bench, what's his name? Oh my gosh, not Brizgalov. Was it Brizgalov? No. Who was a crazy Flyers goalie? I don't know why I'm having a mind fart, but I am.
Brizgalov.
Is it Brizgalov?
Like you're talking the one who says really random things all the time.
Yeah.
Talked about fighting a bear, that kind of thing.
Yes, yeah. Brizgalov, right?
Ilya Brizgalov.
Okay, so that was when he was in like peak Brizgalov mode. But this was back when Scott Hartnell was still playing for the Flyers. So I can remember that the guys at work had wanted me to try to do some bit with Brizgalov. Like I brought a mug and some tea or something. And I remember like I got a bad feeling about it. And I remember I had met Scott because he had done the Hartnell MacArthur Golf Classic.
Yeah.
And I remember Scott recognized me in the dressing room and was like, "Hey, like, what are you doing here?" And I was like, "Oh my God, this is so like." All these guys are kind of looking at me like who, like, because I was really new in Edmonton, and a bunch of the other reporters, I used to call them the Peacoat Mafia because they all used to sit at Rexall Place with like their peacoats up, and like nobody talked to me, and I was like the new girl, so who was I? Anyway, so the Peacoat Mafia was like looking at me like, who does she think she is that she knows Scott Hartnell? And then Scott's mom, I can't remember if Joy was there, but I know Bill was there. Even I think Joy was there. Bill and Joy were like, "Hey, Carly!" Like when I walked out of the dressing room, they were there. So then the Peacoat Mafia was grilling me even more because they're like, "How is she in with the family?" But so like that was a connection I had made. So Scott was really nice to me, and I remember I had said to him like, "Hey, they want me to do some bit with Brizgalov. Like, what do you think?" Is like, honestly, Carly, don't, because they didn't even send him. I don't even think they sent him to practice that morning because they didn't want him to do media. So he kind of like saved me the embarrassment and the who knows how bad it could have gone. Like he gave me a heads up not to do it because we had that previous relationship and kind of that sort of almost rapport or camaraderie from when I had met him when he was in Lloyd. So like it never hurts to, be kind to people and be professional because you never know when it's going to come and help you like down the road. And then when Hockey Day happened, like everybody at CBC had gone to a meeting. This is when I was working at CBC. And they were like, "Man, we got back from a prep meeting." And everybody said like, "Well, you have to send Carly." So like then I was a big part of Hockey Day because I had such good connections and memories from Lloydminster. And then from when I got sent to the Stampede, when I was working at CBC, there was a big accident at the Stampede and nobody knew anything about chuck wagon racing. So then I was on the National that night because I was explaining chuck wagon racing to people. So like all these things like all kind of happened crazily for a reason. And now Colby working at Sportsnet, I walked into our Christmas party and his wife is looking at me and I'm like, "Oh gosh, what did I do?" And she gives me this big warm smile and she's like, "I know you." And then we just hit it off because I had met her when Colby had gone and done the golf tournament there. So like all these, it's so funny, like the connections that you make and how things, if you put good things out there, you're going to get good things back from people. And so I've only ever gotten good things back from Lloyd. So, I could go on and on about the connections and experiences, but those are a few that really stand out.
Well, that's good advice for people, though. Treat
Yeah.
people with respect, and you just never know where it goes.
Well, and I think that's something too that I think like anybody in any industry that you're in, but especially in mine, like it's easy to dismiss the grunt work, right? Like and sorry guys if you're going to hear this, but none of the guys that I worked with in Lloyd wanted to go and do the chuck wagon racing. Like they all kind of thought that it was, oh God, like what is this, But the people that I met and the lessons that I learned from those families and those people, and Brian Hebson, if you're out there, hello. But like that all really helped me. And then I got to go to the Stampede, and then I got to go behind the barns. I had all these like VIP passes, and everywhere I went, people were nice to me and good to me because I had gone to Turtle Lake and done the Turtle Ford Derby, and I had gone, to all these other races, and I had met these families. So like, then that really, like, then I walk into the Stampede and I'm getting treated really well because I've made an effort to get to know these people. So like, it never hurts to be nice to people. And like, just because somebody else dismisses that task or that opportunity, it might really give you a boost one day. Like I was on the national because I knew stuff about chuck wagon racing, and nobody else at CBC knew anything about it. So like, who knew? So it just, I think that you have to have that attitude with things in life, because you never know when it's going to help you down the road. And I'm a big believer, at least in my career, like what I've put out, I believe that I've gotten some back for sure.
When you look back on your time in Lloyd, what is the most random thing you went out and reported then? Is it chuck wagon racing coming from out east and nobody knowing what you're talking about?
The most random thing. Actually, it was really bad. This just popped in my head. I don't know if it's the worst, but this totally comes to mind. So when I was at my job interview for CTV Edmonton, one of the stories that I pitched was, do you remember the Reapers rugby team?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so the cover of, oh God, what was the name of the newspaper? The Booster, the Meridian Booster?
Meridian Booster.
So accidentally, the cover of the front page of the Booster was like a rugby player whose private parts were completely exposed. And I had to pitch a story. Like they said to me in the interview, like, give me an example of a story in Lloyd that you'd have to tell today. And I remember when I was driving into Edmonton, like that was the story of the day. And that was one of the stories that I pitched to, and I think that's why I got my job at CTV Edmonton, because the story that I pitched was how I would cover the uncovering, I guess, if you will.
Private parts on the front of a newspaper.
Yeah, and if you look it up, I guarantee you, Sean, like if you look it up, you'll be able to find it. It was a real talker. Oh, that and DJ Pauly D at the cooler. That was another one. And he brought the like bedazzled laptop with the Italian flag and everything. Yeah.
Oh, you're bringing back some memories now.
Yeah. It's a good thing I remember that night, but I do.
You're telling me in an interview you brought up genitals on the front of a newspaper.
It was, I forget how they asked it to me, but it was just like, what would be the biggest story in Lloyd today? Or maybe it was like, give me an example of a difficult story to tell, something along those lines. And I was just like, boom, this happened today. Like this is what's going on in Lloyd today. And everybody was talking about it. So like, we couldn't not do it.
Lloyd just can't win one, can we?
Yeah. It's all right. It was a funny one though. Yeah.
Oh, that's oh, you got me in tears over here. That's good stuff.
There you go.
How have you been keeping busy during the COVID, the pandemic? Like, I mean, I sit here and listen to you, and the amount of time, even when you were in Lloyd, the things you're covering, every weekend you're gone covering something, every night, you are, part of why you're successful is obviously you have talent, and the way you've treated people. You've always got a little bit of charisma when it comes to being on air. But man, by listening to you, you work extremely hard, and no amount of talent can replace that. But now you're stuck at home.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been, you know what, it has been really hard. And I have good days and I have bad days, but I think yeah, it's been really hard and for different reasons. I mean, professionally, it's been I feel like I've lost a little bit of who I am. Like I don't get to do what like I know people say like, you know, a job is a job. And that was actually one thing I really learned in Lloyd. One thing I loved the most about living there was people worked hard in Lloyd, but they played harder. And it was a mentality that I didn't have coming from Ontario. And it was a really good lesson for me to learn at that point in my life because it showed me too that like I came from a place where, you know, the wealthiest people were lawyers and doctors and these sort of, you know, like your higher educated professionals. And one thing that Lloyd showed me was like hardworking people who have good ideas, like coming up with the best system to clean a well, for example, or coming up with a welding technique that nobody's thought about before, is not only profitable, but gives you a really good life. And so I learned when I was in Lloydminster, like these different, like just a different appreciation for not so much like monetary value, but like what's important. Like I had come from a pretty materialistic, and I get now why people out west don't like people from the east, like meaning like Ontario, I guess. I'm not talking about like, you know, lovely Maritimes and the Atlantic, lovely people, but I get that now. So I think, you know, I never wanted to be one of those people like who lived to work, you know, who got up every day and was just like, oh, I live for my job. No, I don't think that's true, but I really love what I do. So, you know, I have fun when I'm at work. Like I have, you know, my good friends at work and we're all a good group and, you know, we know that we're lucky to do what we do and it's fun. Like I don't, there are days when I don't feel like I've worked, you know, I really don't. And I know how lucky I am. Like I appreciate that. I really, really do. So I think now that I haven't been doing it for so long, like I realize, I know it's a part of me. It's a part of who I am. It always will be. Like I love being able to entertain people. I love being able to enjoy those moments and bring that to people. Like it's a responsibility and I really miss it. Like there's nothing else like it, right? Like I can't simulate that another way. I can't get that high, that adrenaline rush that I get from getting a script like hot off the printer and doing it live, you know, right out of an Oilers game for the entire audience to see with me for the first time. And if I screw it up, like it's live, we can't fix that. Like that gives me a rush. That's, you know, I've been working on that craft since 2007 I started working, you know? So like I've realized not being able to do it, how much I love it and how much I miss it. And so, yeah, like I do feel like I've kind of lost a little bit of me during this time. And I don't have the other stuff that makes me me. Like I've always been a big fitness person and I can't go to the gym. Like my home workouts are like they are what they are. So I miss, like, I don't really have anything that's, you know, I'm having a hard time like doing me right now. So, you know, I have a 2.5-year-old to keep me busy, which is great, but my heart's breaking for him because I'm like his only playmate right now. So, you know, God bless my husband for listening to me and my meltdowns that I've had lots of. So yeah, it's been like, it hasn't really been easy. I feel like the longer it goes on, like the harder it's getting. So that's kind of my truth bomb for you there. Sorry.
Oh, it's lots of people are feeling that way. It's been a very, well, in the last 100 years, you can't point to a time in history where this identical scenario is played out where the entire world is shut down. And, you know, like think about it. Pro sports is big money. They've played through a lot of things, like a lot.
Yeah.
And it's all been shut down. I just keep waiting to wake up tomorrow morning and, you know, hockey's going to, you know, they're going to start training camp and then you're going to get the buzz going and whatever. But the problem is right now, speaking specifically to hockey, even if they do the hub city theory, we're going to do the hub cities. Well, now you got to bring in people from all these different countries. Oh, wait, we're shut down from people. Well, we're supposed to be. The United States is shut down. So now what happens? So,
Yeah.
now you got like quarantine time, even if they can get in. And then you got no fans in the stands. I don't even know what the report, like,
I don't know.
right? Like there's
That's the
so
thing, like,
many ththings.
yeah, there's so many questions, and I think the hard thing is do we want it back? Of course we do. Like that's the simple answer, right? Like of course we do. Yes, of course we want it back, but it's all this is one of those things where like I get annoyed with that cliche of like some things are bigger than sports. It's like, yeah, of course some things are. Like this is one of those, I'm not disputing that. So I don't know. Like I have so many questions, and then I don't want to be one of those people who is selfish and says, well, yeah, let's give these athletes, special treatment, or let's give the reporters, special travel privileges or treatment. Like, I don't know. I don't want to be that person who advocates for that because I don't know if it's right. Like deep down, I just don't know. I still have way more questions than I have answers about everything.
Well, here's one guy that would gladly give special permission to let athletes get back together. Man, just a little live sports. No fans in the stands. I'm fine with it. Let's play the NHL playoffs. This is like the best time of the year.
I know. It's heartbreaking because it's like the same way we've been saying, oh, we're in this together. I mean, I'm the biggest believer that sports bring people together, right?
100%.
So
100%.
if there was ever a time where we could use some unity and something to latch onto and bring us all together, it's the, epitome of that, right? And we don't have it. And I don't know, like the longer it goes on, the more I'm like, I mean, we had Bundesliga on in my house all weekend. And I haven't watched that much soccer since like soccer Saturdays of like the 90s. So I don't know, like of course we all miss it. And I don't have, it's way above my pay grade to figure out how and when it happens. But I mean, I was encouraged when Tim and Sid got back in the television studio. But the thing is too, like what people don't realize at home, like your average, and I don't mean it to be like condescending, but like when we put a live show on, I don't think people appreciate how many people are in a building at one time working on that. There's 15 people in a control room. When you have a full night of games on, like there could easily be, I don't know, maybe as many even as like 100 people in our newsroom, like shot listing, editing, writing. Those are the, like, when I think about getting back up and running, those are the things. And I'm like, how do we do that safely? I don't know. So, I mean, I don't know if you'd be interested in it or not. Like I can remember when the night that the NBA show, like the NBA was canceled and how it all played out for us live on TV. Do you want me to tell that story?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Fire away.
So it was I remember though the Oilers played. Was it the Wednesday or the Thursday of that week?
No, I was going to say, so I was still playing senior hockey. We were in the middle of playoffs. And Thursday night, we got word that everything was canceled. So it would have been Wednesday, I think, that NBA shut down.
Okay. So, because I'm pretty sure the Oilers played that Wednesday night on Scotiabank Wednesday Night Hockey. And then I know Ken and Ivanka were getting ready to do their show out of that. And Ivanka was like 8.5 months pregnant. Like she was due at the end of March. And so anyways, all this Rudy Gobert stuff was starting to break on Twitter. And we're all reading it. Like this is all real time, right? Like we're all learning everything in the newsroom the same time everybody else is learning it. The difference is we have to go on TV and then tell everybody about it, right? So Ken and Ivanka were going to come up out of the Oilers game and do a show. And then all this Rudy Gobert stuff was happening. And we realized the Raptors had an off day that day, but they had an event. And it was like a fundraiser event. So we had sent, she's not a full-time reporter. She's one of our assignment editors. But we had sent an assignment editor and a camera person to cover the Raptors that night. And coincidentally, I had been up on the third floor and had said to this, and we're friends, I adore her. I had said to her, okay, well, I'm going downstairs. Let's take the elevator down together. So her and I take the elevator down to the newsroom together, and all this Gobert stuff starts blowing up. And then we realize, okay, wait a minute. The Raptors played the Jazz Monday. I guess this is Wednesday. And she was there today with the team, and she's sitting right there. And our camera person was with the team, and he's sitting wherever he's sitting. So all of a sudden, like, you know, alarm bells were kind of going off in everybody's heads, like, whoa. So Ivanka got sent home, and I ran up to make up because I knew that we were they said, okay, Carly, Ivanka's going home. You're going to do the show, the earlier show out of the Oilers game. So I got dressed and ready to go right away. And then, you know, we had like senior management coming down into the newsroom and addressing all of us. And they had said to us, look, like, we are aware that these two people from our staff traveled and were with the Raptors today, and that they've been in the newsroom. They both got sent to get tested. And we were all instructed to please not leave the building until we had the results of their tests. Plus, we have a live show to do in less than, I don't know how long. So I had to flip and go into like go mode for that show. And yeah, we came up out of the Oilers game, and then I can't remember if the NBA had announced yet that I can't remember if we broke it live. I think they broke it during the hockey game. But then Ken and I came up coast to coast, like nationally, and did an entire show. Like, we were getting Howard Beck, like, that second. We were doing a FaceTime live. Michael Grange, our NBA analyst, was doing a chat with us live. Like, everything was happening in real time, and we're live on national television talking about it. So it was just a bizarre night from basically being on lockdown with your coworkers and then sort of breaking this news to Canada that, hey, the NBA season is postponed indefinitely, and we don't know what this means for hockey. So it all played out very much in real time, and it was one of the most kind of surreal shows I've ever done, because you're saying it out loud, but you're not really processing. Like, it wasn't hitting me. Like, what do you mean the NBA season is postponed indefinitely? Like, I'm reading script, you know, I'm talking to Ken and we're having this conversation. But then when the show was over, I was like, gosh, that doesn't even feel real. You know, and we have all of our executive producers and higher ups are right there, you know, like watching you and listening to what you're saying and how you're saying it, because this is so unprecedented. And it was, I was really proud of what we did that night, and our crew and everyone for gathering things as quickly as they did. But man, like, when we walked off the set, Ken and I were just like, what happened? So it was a really bizarre and also terrifying. Like, I didn't really appreciate, like, I took an elevator down with somebody who was with the team, you know, like, so what if she's sick and then am I sick? And then I just sat beside Ken. Like, you know, all these things are kind of almost like an afterthought, because like the show just had to go on. It was pretty, yeah, of all the things, like the shows I've done in my career, like breaking news, that was a really intense thing to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're absolutely correct. And like, you guys are hearing about it real time. I mean, if it makes you feel any better, sitting and listening to everything that was coming out, your jaw was on the floor no matter where you were.
Yeah.
Because it just, how can the brain comprehend what is being said?
Yeah.
It's hard to get a brain, even right now, man. Like, you think about, there's so much contradictory information coming out. I've probably flip-flopped whether it's real or not 100 times now, because if you go down the rabbit hole, either way, it is a scary rabbit hole. And you just like, I don't know. Like, can somebody just tell me? And nobody can tell you exactly what's going on.
Yeah. And it's hard because I think the way I am anyways, like, I like to have things to look forward to. That's sort of how I I don't know, I've always been that way. Like I like to have a thing that I'm, working towards or gearing up towards. It's just kind of how I like perform well. And like I got nothing. Like, and I know I'm not alone. I know that I'm not alone, and I know people of course have it harder than I do. So some days I feel guilty even complaining. But yeah, like it's just I got nothing. So
Well, you
it's been tough.
you you're one of the. I read a statistic a while back, and it's like, I don't know. Let's call it 70%. It's a high number of people don't like their jobs, right? Like they. Well, think about it right now. They're having issues now of people, businesses trying to fire back up because the government's got that 75% wage subsidy where essentially they'll pay workers to go back to work, and they're having problems with people not wanting to go back to work, right?
Yeah.
Like, so businesses are trying to get their, people to go back, and they can't. Well, it's because there's a huge chunk of the population that ain't loving what they're doing. And so I wouldn't call it one of the fortunate. I think at an early age, you just, you found what you wanted to do. And once you know what you want to do, it's easy to put a ton of effort into it. And at that time of your life, I assume you don't have your husband. You definitely don't have a kid, right? So you're free to just like attack it and go as hard at it as you want. Yeah. And the funny thing is when you're doing that and you enjoy it, it doesn't feel that bad. Actually, you're when you listen to you talk about it, it's, there's a rush to doing all the stuff you're doing.
Right. Well, and I remember, actually, it's funny that you say that because I remember when I got, I loved working at CTV Edmonton. I was so happy. I was getting to go to the rink and cover these morning skates, and the World Juniors were in Edmonton and Calgary that year. So I got to do all this World Junior stuff, and, I was going to Eskimos games and doing like live reports from I was so happy. I really felt like I was in a good, awesome place in my career. I went and did the Briar and the Scotties because the guys didn't really want to go do the curling. So I was like, I'll do that. So I was doing all these great, awesome things. And I remember I got a call from someone at CBC asking me if I was interested in a position that they had opening. And it was because actually Nabil Karim was leaving to go to TSN. It's amazing how all these like jobs are connected, by the way. I could play like 6 degrees of separation with lots of people. But anyways, so there was a job opening at CBC in Toronto. And I was devastated because this is like peak irony. It was a job with CBC Sports, like the sports network in Toronto. And I should have been like over the moon. And I was, but I was loving my life in Edmonton. I had this kick-ass 2-bedroom apartment and I felt like all independent. And I mean, I was making like incrementally more money than I was making when I was in Lloyd, but it felt like I was like living the dream based on what I had kind of been. So I was devastated because I knew that it's what I should do. And I remember I actually turned to Ryan Rashog for some advice. And he had said to me, Carly, Toronto doesn't come calling very often. And if you don't take this, you might not know when you're going to get another chance. And so I had only been working at CTV Edmonton for 6 months, which is not a long time, right? And I was so happy and I was so upset when I had to go and tell my boss that, they flew me out for an interview and an audition and everything, and it went well, and then I got the job offer, and I had to tell my boss, and like I was bawling. It was the most unprofessional I think I've ever been, but it was so honest and sincere because I didn't want to leave. I was loving what I was doing. So, I mean, it's funny how like sometimes you get an opportunity also when you don't necessarily want one. And even when it's hard, like sometimes you got to do the harder thing because it's the right thing. So I kind of learned that lesson pretty early too.
When you're looking back at your journey, your road to where you are currently, what's one of the fun events that you got to go? Like, I mean, you've got to be Olympics, World Cup, hockey night in Canada for, like all that it is for Canada? What is something that you just look back and you're like, man, when I was going to the whatever that day, I can't believe I'm like, this is unbelievable.
You know, it's going to sound really, I don't know if it's going to make me sound like such an a-hole, but it's the truth. When you're in some of the moments, like I don't think I appreciated how awesome it was. Like when I got to interview Alexandre Bilodeau when he won the back-to-back gold medal, like when he defended his gold medal, that was like career highlight, like for me. I remember when I was on the bench for hockey night. It's funny because I keep that one like front and foremost because it was like my prize when I got to do the first game for hockey night. Like it was cool because the producer in my ear, Shirley Nahayak, if you ever want to learn from one of the best in the entire business, he's the guru of live event production. He just makes magic happen. Like so many of the amazing moments in sports that we've seen, especially with hockey, but also with the Olympics, he's been kind of calling the shots for. But he was really considerate of that. And the night that I did hockey night for the first time, actually nobody knows this, but I was deathly ill. Like I had an asthma attack the Friday, and was in the emergency room, and they were going to admit me, but Joel Darling had called me, I think it was like the day before, and asked me to do the game. And so I was like, oh my God, no, like I can't be in the hospital because I have to be at the rink tomorrow morning for the pregame skate. And then I was flying to Sochi on the Sunday. So it was like a total like cluster, you know what, like me getting to do the game. And the only reason why I got to do the game was because David Amber was hosting for the Olympics and had never covered curling before. And he had to go out to Calgary, I think, to cover curling. So anyways, but like I was just a mess. Like I actually had taken the doctor had prescribed me like oxycodone on the Friday. And I was like, I can't take this because I have to do hockey night. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like I was a mess, but I was like, nothing is gonna like take away this for me ever. So nobody knows that. I probably shouldn't be saying that, but it's so true. And I took an oxy on the plane to Sochi on the Sunday because I was so sick. Which I also probably shouldn't be telling you, but it's just the truth. So that Saturday at the game, Shirley knew like how jacked I was and how like amazing it was. And so I was on the bench after I had done my 2 interviews, and he's like, okay, Carly, just soak it up. And I was like, I'm so, like, and like my earpiece like went dead. And I was like, Shirley, like, I'm like holding the mic and I'm like, what do you mean soak it up? And like the warm up music was going, and like the players are taking their laps around the ice, and like the lights are going. And I'm just sitting there like, just kill me now because I'll die happy. Like if I never do anything again, I don't even care if I F this up. Like I'm the happiest I've ever been in my entire life. Like even if I'm technically like on medication that's like elite, like it was like an out of body experience. Like I honestly, and like I seem to remember like a player skating by and like wanting to change a stick. And I remember being like, ooh, that's Phil Kessel. He's 81. Like, let me find 81 on the stick and I'll swab it for him. Like, and I tell that story and like, I was so, I don't know what, that like, I think it happened, but now I'm looking back and I'm like, was I just having like a dream or something? Like, or like a mirage? I don't know. And so Shirley gave me that. Like, Shirley let me have that, that moment, that like awe-inspiring, like just soak it up moment. And so I think that's probably like when I look back, that was cool, you know? And yeah, that was a pretty good one.
Well, I think as kids in Canada specifically, all of us dream of being a part of that night production in some way, shape, or form. You know, most of us hope you're playing in the game, right? You get to be, and then, you know, there's a reason why that towel goes over the the player's shoulder, and there's.
Speaking of, this
You got
is
one?
a Sean standby. So this is a Sean Newman podcast spectacular. I'm probably gonna get in so much trouble. Like, I'm probably gonna get a call tomorrow from somebody and be like, "You're in big trouble from work." But okay, so this, and if you look at the logo, see how it's the old, like the original Hockey Night with the CBC logo? Okay.
Yeah.
And this is how you know it's old, because they no longer have CBC Sports on them. They now have the Sportsnet.
Yeah.
So, okay, so this towel was supposed to be placed around Phil Kessel's neck when he scored a hat trick against the Ottawa Senators. And so what happened was, so this was the second game I did. And I remember it because I got to interview Bobby Ryan, and he's like one of my just favorite players ever. I just have always rooted for him ever since that night. So anyways, Phil Kessel scored a hat trick in this game. And at the end of the game, I'm standing by with, you have a cameraman and like an audio person, and it's like, you just have this kick-ass team around you, and you just feel like you're a friggin' boss. So I'm standing there waiting to interview Phil Kessel about because he got a hat trick. And whatever happened with the late game, they dropped our interview. So everything is happening live, right? So like you're trying to time everything, but like you're also syncing up with Vancouver or Edmonton, like wherever the late game is. And so they dropped Phil Kessel. And so I don't remember how I stole this towel, but I stole the towel. So I don't know, like if the lovely, I'm sorry now if I'm going to rat her out, but if it was like the PA or whoever I was with, like if she set it down and then left to go do something, but like I may have asked, but I don't think I did. And then I just took the towel. And then I remember I went and met my friends. I think it was like Earl's or somewhere after, for a beer, because I was just like hyperventilating still. And I remember like I walk up to my friends in the bar and I pulled this towel out of my bag, and they were just like, oh my God, that's crazy. And then when I explained to them that it was like Phil Kessel's towel, they just like lost their minds. It was nuts. Yeah. So that's my story about my Phil Kessel towel.
Are the towels that
Oh my
under
God.
lock and key?
They're literally under lock and key. Like, you don't understand. They're literally under lock and key. It's nuts. And I have a mic. I also probably shouldn't be telling you this, but these are also, the mic flashes are also like gold. I feel bad for saying this, but I have a Hockey Night one hidden at Sportsnet that I may or may not have scooped from something that I did where I needed a Hockey Night mic flash. So for whatever reason, these are like, they're like gold. And I stole this one when I was at the Olympics in Russia. So this was actually with me over there.
Well, yeah. What are they going to do with it afterwards?
I don't know, but like, there's just like a thing about them. Like the towels are literally locked up. And like people ask us all the time, like at charity event, like, can we get a towel? Can we get a, and it's like, no. Like, we just know, like, you don't even ask. They're like,
that's crazy. So, you know how crazy that is? Like,
I know, but like we all are into like the lore of the towel, right?
Well,
it's
absolutely.
like, right? So, I mean, yeah. And I stole one. So there you go. Yeah.
Who's the best person you've ever had the pleasure of interviewing? Because you have done a lot. You've been on the beat.
You know what stinks though? Like since I've been at sports, I shouldn't say it stinks. Because since I've been at Sportsnet, I haven't been in the field as much as I was at CBC. So I do miss reporting. I definitely do. Because I miss it so much. Yeah.
Just love being in like the locker room and on the field and around the crowd, or
it's not like I'm like I don't want to say this the wrong way, but like I don't get like starstruck. Like I don't walk in and be like, oh my God, look, there's so and so. Like I'm not like that. And I'll tell you the truth. Most people that I've been in a room with, that was the first thing that got on my nerves when I got to Edmonton. It's like the way that people cower to athletes, like the reporters. I didn't realize it, but I was like, why is your voice so low? Like ask a question, like speak. Like they're just like I understand we respect them, like they're professionals and as am I, but like it's not like I'm cowering in the corner kind of thing. I mean, it's hard not to, but so like I'm not a star. Like I don't miss it because I miss being around like the stars. I miss it because I like asking questions. I like observing and then asking somebody about something. Like I enjoy then retelling that, like using my senses to see and hear and like bring you there. Because that's one of the things that gets on my nerves about reporters is I'm like, tell me something I don't already know. Like, tell me something that you saw or that you heard or that you smelled, you know, like tell me something I don't already know. Don't tell me what their goal streak is or their drought or whatever. Like bring me there. Like tell me something about, you know, like, so that's what I miss. I'm trying to think the person who like I loved. You know what I had a lot of fun doing was when Heather Moyes and Kaylee Humphreys won their gold medal in Sochi, because I forget how the schedule had worked out that night, but I had a ton of time. Like Shirelli actually was the one who was in my ear that night. And I didn't care what was going on around me. I like initiated this crazy Canadian celebration. I like called their parents and family in from the stands, and we had like this Canadian kind of like semicircle, and we were just celebrating their gold medal like with their family members right near the podium there by the bobsled track.
Yeah.
So that was really cool because it was like we were celebrating a medal with the people that they wanted to celebrate it with. But then we were broadcasting that back to Canada. So it was this cool kind of, you know, live kind of love fest, but like go Canada go kind of thing. So that was a really cool thing to be a part of.
Is the Olympics just like on an absolute other level? Because I mean, like sitting back here watching it, it totally is.
Yeah.
But then again, I've never been to an Olympics, so I can't sit here and say that.
You know, the thing that surprised it is now, granted, I didn't go to an Olympics in Canada, right? Like if I had been in Vancouver, I think the answer to that question would be absolutely yes. Yeah. But you know what surprised me about the Olympics? How much I feel bad. I don't want to put words in athletes' mouth, but I did get the vibe from them. So I feel like it's a truthful thing for me to say. It surprised me how much the Olympics were kind of just like another competition for some of the athletes.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't mean that to take away like from how hard they tried, but like the way that they prepare, the way that they go out and do their thing. And I think that for some of the sports, especially in the Winter Olympics, it's different, right? So like bobsleigh, like an Olympic medal, big deal, because like the World Cup circuit is important to them, but like that's when the spotlight is on their sport. Whereas like with snowboarding and snowboard cross, like those kinds of things at the time, because the X Games had been so successful and also so lucrative for those athletes, that like it almost a little bit like took away from some of those events for me, because I could tell that like it wasn't really like the peak thing necessarily in their, maybe like in their sport. Skiing, I would say it was different, because I feel like during the rest of the calendar year, we don't really watch a lot of the, like your traditional ski events, like your downhill, like your super G, you know what I mean? Like those things. But I feel like some of the more like extreme kind of, like it was just kind of like another competition.
How about, what the heck is it called? Ski jump? Ski?
Oh, like where they're doing the big, that one. I actually was not assigned to that. That was one of the few.
Did you get to at least see it?
No, I didn't. I was like run ragged during the Olympics. That's the one thing I would say. Like I did, that was the only thing I did. I didn't do cross country because that was at another venue, but I did like, if it happened on a mountain, I did it. And then I did all the bobsleigh and all of the, like all the sliding. So like I was, yeah,
I
I didn't
picked
get
the
to do that
one thing you didn't get to do.
Yeah, sorry. But the half pipe was really cool. I mean, it's just like the fact that it's so worldly was what really took my breath away.
Yeah.
You know, like you're in a media center and like the guy beside you is from Russia and that person is from Argentina. Like that was what was cool to me. I was like, gosh, the world is really all together right now. You know, like, and I kept actually all my, I can show you my cheesy Olympic stuff, but when I first got there, my mom was nagging me about the pins. And I was like, Ma, like this is just like a crazy mom thing. Like, leave me alone. I'm not giving people pins.
Wait,
but then I got like,
don't you remember back in the day? Well, with soccer, you must have went to events where
I know,
you
but
always
we did
gave
the
pins?
patches.
Oh, you did patches.
We did patches, which I thought, but I don't know. So then I got like bit by the pin bug, and I kept all of my, like, I don't know if you can see some of them, but like
For the listeners, they can't see, but for the people on YouTube, they
right.
certainly.
Okay,
No. You could. Oh no, bring them back up because I'm sitting there staring at them.
So like, and I got some like
what's the best one on there? What's the one that you're like, yeah, that was cool to get. I'm happy I stuck it on.
Oh, who did I have to kiss their butt for one? Oh, I really wanted the Italian ones because I'm Italian and I just thought like that. Oh, you know what it was? It was this one. This was like the hardest one to find because it's Coca-Cola. So see how it's the polar bear, the Coke polar bear? This was like the
oh yeah.
Like the, I don't know, like the golden ticket of that Olympics, that it was like the Coke bear. So yeah, that was a cool one. I don't know. So yeah, I got kind of into the pin thing, but yeah, it was just like the fact that, you know, like it's the whole world and you're all together and everybody's just kind of in a good mood and wants to celebrate.
And there's something cool about seeing like the Canadian jumpsuit flag kind of flying, or you know, or the Sweden or the Finland or the whatever, right?
Yeah, and everywhere we went, like I will say that's also when I also kind of had a bigger appreciation for being Canadian, because there is something about being Canadian in that world. And I can tell you, this is my Olympic horror story. The producer, oh, God love her, Kathy. I had tickets to the women's gold medal game and the men's gold medal game in hockey.
Okay.
Ask me if I went to either of them.
Did you go to either of them? How didn't you go to either of them?
Because I forget what happened, but I got assigned. I think I had to go do a story or something, and so I gave one of my tickets to my producer that I had worked with on the ski hill, and then I wound up watching the gold medal game at the media center. And I remember thinking like, oh my God, I had a ticket to this. Like, what? Yeah. So I had to work. I couldn't get out of whatever I had been assigned to do, or whatever I had been assigned to do, finish late. And like, because I was in the mountains doing all the skiing and snowboarding, and then I was at the sliding center, the hockey venue was in another part of Sochi. So I wasn't going to get there. And yeah, but God love Kathy. She gave me tickets to both.
You want to know my fondest memory of the Sochi Olympics?
I do.
The gold medal game, Canada's playing Sweden, and I forget what time that came on over there, but here it was, I want to say 5 a.m, I think. Oh God, roughly, something like that. And Alberta's premier passed a law for the day allowing bars to open up at 5 a.m, okay, and serve alcohol. This is the most Canadian thing in the world. So we go to the brew house till there's people who went there till close and then stumbled back up there at 5. We went there till midnight and then went to bed and then showed up at 4:30 a.m. to get in line to get a table. And at 5, in this, I don't know how many people in there, but it was max capacity. I didn't have a chair. You just stood. They served breakfast and beer, and we watched that game, and it is the Wow, they went
Oh my
3-0.
gosh.
Like it
Yeah,
was like
it was so great.
unbelievable. They had the
Yeah.
horn going, and everybody
Mhm.
comes stumbling out of there at 8 a.m, half
Oh my
pin,
gosh. Oh, that's so great.
and that was
Ah!
all of Alberta. It was
Yeah.
unbelievable.
You know what was cool too about when I watched it? We had a lot because the Swedish media base was right across like the hallway from ours in the media center in Sochi. So we had put like a piece of tape on the ground, like this is your half of the ice, this is our half of the ice, and we taped like a toonie in the center of the ice, or it was a loonie or something, like for good luck, you know. But that was what was cool about watching the game with the Swedish fans, because if it had been the Americans, like there's no way that that atmosphere would have been like that. But everybody was just appreciating how good of a hockey game it was. So it was kind of cool that, like, even though they were our enemies, like then they were celebrating with us. They were happy for us. And it was kind of this like international appreciation of the sport kind of thing, which was neat.
If it was Sweden and Finland, they wouldn't have been so cordial.
Oh, good God, no. No. Mm-mm. I learned that over there too.
We've talked an awful lot about a lot of different things, and the one thing I wanted to talk a little bit about was your time in Lloyd,
Mm-hmm.
and we talked a little bit about it, but I thought maybe we could come back to it because,
Sure.
what was one of your favorite things about Lloyd?
Oh, all the different stuff I got to do. I mean, I know I hit on it earlier. I talked about the people and how eye-opening it was for me. Um, because it was just that mentality of the work hard, play harder. And I loved it. It was just like, even though, I mean, I remember us going out and playing hockey on Bud Miller when it was like minus 30 something. Like my hair was literally frozen, like you get like the icicles up your nose and everything. And then we go to BP's after and like have a beer, and it was like the greatest day ever.
You don't get that in Ontario?
No, it's just like, you know what? Because people here complain when it's that cold. And so, what's funny is I had a winter wedding, I'm convinced, because of my time in Lloyd, because I love the winter now. I got to go, I went ice fishing when I was there. A friend of mine took me to his family cabin, and I got to go and do ice fishing. I went snowmobiling. I went ATVing for the first time, and I got stuck in a field with horse, you know what? 'Cause I'm stubborn and I don't listen. When they say don't go through the deep puddle, like the puddle, because you don't know how deep it is underneath, like you don't go through the puddle because it could really be deep underneath. Like I went to Regina, we went to Riders games.
Oh, how did you like your Riders game?
Oh gosh, it was so great. And
Is
then
it-
it made me mad because I'm a Ticats. Well, I mean, my family's all from Hamilton.
Yeah.
So, um,
You're a Cat fan.
well, and I worked for the team, right? So I kind of reconnected with them when I was there.
How cool are the fans in Saskatchewan? You've got to experience
gosh.
fans everywhere.
Well, you know what that I love though is that like you see them. So like I had remember we went to Regina Beach that same weekend, and like there's rider gear everywhere. Like people wear their rider stuff to the beach. They wear their rider stuff to the mall. They wear it out for dinner. They wear it to a wedding. Like it's just like it's everywhere. Like you can't escape it. And yeah, so that's what I thought was cool about it. Is just that like you see it, even though for a place that's so spread out, like Saskatchewan, it's amazing how much, like how wide that net is cast. Like you could be anywhere in Saskatchewan and still see it. Like it's everywhere. So yeah, oh god, the atmosphere. And I was at I got to go see games at Mosaic, which was really cool.
Mosaic Stadium, I still retell this story, is the only place I've ever been in a stadium setting where they allowed one of our compadres to roll in with a beer bong and proceed to have beer bongs in the stands while we absolutely whipped, if there's any Winnipeg fans out there, we whipped the Bombers 53 rip on the Labor Day Classic. And he was running around our area with this beer bong, getting people to beer bong. And I'm staring at this. I'm having a grand old time. And I'm going, I can't believe this is happening. Like, I mean, this is a few years back. This is 2012, roughly.
Right.
So
Okay.
I don't know if they'd allow it in the new one or not, but that is Saskatchewan. It was
Yeah.
unreal.
Well, and the pink lemonade drinks, I learned all about those. Those are really good.
In
So yeah,
your
I think that's what I like. I think that's what I like the most about Lloyd. All the different things I got to go and do. Like, and just the people I met. Like one of my friends there was a carpenter, and he was like I didn't, and I'm gonna sound ridiculous, but like I didn't have a friend at home who was a carpenter in Ontario. Like I just did it, and I just was so impressed. I was like, look at what this person can do with their hands. Like they literally are building this person's home, and like I just found it so much more like I just love that like raw rustic element of it, like people make things here, they do things for themselves. Like I got to go cattle branding when I lived in Lloyd, and I was like, this is badass. Like I can't ride a horse to save my life because my horse bit through the bridle. Is that what it's called? I don't even know. And he bolted because I didn't know what I was doing. He was so pissed off. So like all the different things I got to do, like I would never get to do that had I not been out there and embraced it,
It's funny. All the things you're talking about, you just kind of take for granted out here.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. Like, so I also loved it. You know what I mean? Like, I guess maybe because it was new to me. And I really embraced it. But, when someone said, oh, hey, like, we're going to go ice fishing, do you want to come? I was like, yes. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I want to try it. So yeah, like all the stuff I got to do, that was what I loved the most, for sure.
You have, well, no, I assume going from Lloyd to Edmonton to Toronto, every time you made the step up, the newsroom, so to speak, got just a smidge bit better. What was going from Lloyd to now Toronto? What are some of like the biggest differences? I mean, obviously the amount of people working in there has got to be one.
Yeah.
But the scale?
You know what it is though? Like, and this is one of the things that I've always said to students, like wherever I've gone, the quality of the story that you're telling doesn't change. So whether it's airing in Lloydminster or Edmonton or, across the country, like people are still going to see it, and people are people. So, maybe the photographer who shot it, like the cameraman, will be that much better. Maybe by the time you get somewhere, your read will be that much better. But like if you're telling a good story, it doesn't matter where you tell it. It will resonate with people because people are people. So, I mean, I think resources would be a big difference. Like in Lloyd, we tried to do a lot with, what little we had. The technology was better, so things were just easier and faster as I moved up. And, now, like I look back, when I was in Lloyd, I wrote everything, I produced everything, and I presented. When I'm at Sportsnet, I'm still writing and critiquing scripts, and I write all my own on cameras, but like that's not a lot of script compared to what I used to be doing at all. So like now that I really get to focus on the performance side of the job, like I think that's gotten a lot better. Whereas in other places, because you wear so many more hats, it's harder to focus on. That's almost like an afterthought. It's like, oh yeah, well, I'll just figure it out when I get there, when I do it. So I think, yeah, like technology, resources, like, and also like the quality of the people around you, like the editors might be that much better. The sound engineers, so, like the quality of the finished product gets to be that much more polished because you're working with more senior people.
How about the outfits?
Oh, well, my style's been a journey. Yeah, because you have, like, again, I hate to say it's resources, but like we have stylists who go shop for us now. So like I get to veto, I get final say. Like if I don't want to wear it on camera, I don't have to. But like I have a budget for that now. Like I have someone who knows I have to wear something on TV every day. So, when we're in Lloyd, we're making peanuts. Like I'm wearing my winter's clothes when I'm on the anchor desk because that's all I'm buying, So it's a little different now. Yeah.
That's got to be a beautiful perk. Just like the first time you're like, oh man, this is nice.
Yes, it's wonderful. I love our stylist. I love our makeup artist, but it's actually the thing I like the least about what I do.
Really?
Oh yeah, like I hate sitting in the makeup chair. Like I love our makeup artists and like they're amazing, don't get me wrong. Like it's not a knock on them, but like if I could do the show, like I have sweatpants on and like my slippers and like a loft, like if I could do the show like this, I would. But I understand I can't. It's a visual medium. But like it's just so like I would say it takes me about an hour, sometimes hour and a half to get ready for the show. Like I gotta do my hair, I gotta do my makeup, I gotta get dressed, and I gotta go fix everything again. Like it's, and I'm doing that 5 nights a week, like every night. And it's, I mean, it's great because I have a makeup artist who does my makeup and she does a wonderful job. But like I'm sitting in a makeup chair for 45 minutes, 5 days a week, every day. Like it's just, I don't know. It's
It
not
gets
my
old.
fave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's one of the things then you miss about whatever studio low budget you want to go? What's one of the loveliest things you had back then that now you don't?
You know what it is? It was and this isn't a knock like on the people I work with at Sportsnet because we are a family and we do everything together. But when you're in like those low budget places, you really count on everybody. And like you really need other people's help to make it work. And so it forces you to become this tight, close-knit kind of family. And like even if you don't like each other, you know, you still have to be able to work together in order to make the final product work. And you know, I can look back on my newscast from Lloyd and you know, they're not high production value super, like I look at them, not that I'm not proud of them, but like I know what it was kind of thing. But like I'm also really proud of that because I know how hard we all worked to make that happen and like how stressful those days were and how things came like right down to the wire and how it almost didn't happen, you know, like so I miss that aspect of it. Like look what we can do with what little we have. And you know, we were really proud of it and we worked really, really hard. So I think that's kind of one of the things that I miss is like, you know, you're all in it together. And if it gets bumpy, like they're the only ones that are going to help, you know, bring you back. So yeah, that was really cool. Like we really were it really forces you to rely on other people.
Well, I've held you here we're closing in on an hour and a half. Let's go into the final segment, the Crude Master Final Five. So shout out to Heath and Tracy McDonald, sponsors of the podcast since the very beginning. 5 quick questions or long questions, whichever you prefer.
Okay.
First off, what has been your COVID hobby? What have you been up to while being stuck inside?
Honestly, the only thing has been trying to find new workouts to do at home, which isn't very exciting. It's honestly just because like I'm scared I'm going to go back to work and people are going to be like, "Whoa, she had a good time on her quarantine." So yeah, that's probably it.
What have you been doing for what have you been working out at? What has been your workout of choice?
It's so old school and lame, but it's my P90X plyometrics video.
Everybody's into that. I tell you what, we pull. Yeah.
It's like because it makes me work hard, and then I do it. I'm like, okay, this actually wasn't that hard. Like I used to be so intimidated by this. So yeah, and I've been doing a lot of workouts outside. So like I take my son to the park, and then I run, and I bring my resistance bands, and there's like stones, and I do like step ups and lunges, and like it's not very exciting, but it's all I can do. So yeah, that's been it. I'm not baking, I'll tell you that much.
If you could sit down for a beverage of your choice with any one person to pick their brain, current or past, who would you take?
You know who jumped on my mind first was Peter Mansbridge.
Mm.
Only because when I met him for the first time, I literally didn't speak. Like I couldn't. I was just like in shock. And so I was walking out of my dressing room, which was a shared dressing room. Like, please don't think I had my own dressing room in CBC. I walked out, and the national set was actually right near the dressing room. And he was there. And he was like, Carly. And I just like when I say I didn't speak, like this is why I would pick him, because I would just want to apologize for how absolutely incompetent I presented myself. And I was just like, and I didn't even say yeah. I just like, I guess the shock on my face like acknowledged that I heard him, and he was like, I just wanted to say welcome, and you've been doing a great job in the mornings, and I'm really looking forward to seeing more of you. And again, like when I tell you I didn't respond, I mean, literally nothing came out of my mouth. I just stood there. And then he just realized that I wasn't going to like snap out of it. And so then he just said, okay, see you around. And I, again, just nothing.
You ever wonder how many times that happens to that guy, or anyone for that matter? Just like where they're trying to be nice and the people just are like.
And you know what, Sean, when the first night I did a game on Hockey Night, he sent me an email and said, I just wanted to say congratulations, and I thought you did a great job. And like that meant the world to me, because, well, I don't think I have to explain why, but yeah, it was, I think it just says a lot about what he's like and who he is, kind of thing.
On a funny side note, like the fact that you got tongue-tied by Peter Mansbridge is pretty awesome. My wife's from Minnesota, so she came up here, has been living here now for, I think we're going on 8 years.
Wow.
And took her to Bruce, which is close to Viking, Alberta.
Okay.
And there's a stampede there, rodeo, and it's close to the Sutter's hometown, right? They're from Viking.
Mm-hmm.
And so Daryl Sutter was there in his Wranglers, his old beat up,
oh my gosh,
like just this old farmer hat. And he's sitting there and he walks up and he's talking to my brother, and our brother-in-law.
Okay.
And he says something, and I can't like spit a word out. Not a word. Not a word. And my wife is looking at me like, you're an idiot. Like, what was that? And I'm like, that's Daryl Sutter. She's like, because he looks like an old farmer, right? I'm like, it's Daryl Sutter. It's Daryl freaking Sutter. And she's like, who's that? And I have to explain to her the hockey lore of Daryl Sutter. And that happens to the best of us. I'm glad to hear that you had one person that could do it to you.
Yeah. So, yeah, that definitely happened.
If you could give one piece of advice to someone starting out in your profession, or maybe just in general, what's a good piece of advice for chasing a career of your passion?
Okay, so I have two. I know I'm kind of breaking the rules, but one is say yes. Be a yes person. That's kind of my thing. I always try to tell students that. Be a yes person, because I think I've given you lots of examples already of why that can be helpful. And then the other thing I say is be yourself. And when I say be yourself, I mean, because, you can watch people or listen to them and pick up things that you think that they do well. But in this business, the only thing that sets you apart is you. Nobody looks like you. Nobody sounds like you. Nobody's been where you've been or has done what you've done. So, you might think that, Jay Onright does this type of highlight package really well, and you love the way that he says a name. Well, you can't say it like him, because then everybody's going to say, but that's the way Jay says it. And I understand like the inkling to do that. I think it's actually a trap like I kind of fell under when I first got started, is that you try to sound like other people because you think that that's how you should. So I always tell people, like, be the best version of yourself, because that's the only thing that makes you different from other people in this business. And, find out what makes you you. Like, I think the reason why I've done my best work at Sportsnet is because I'm the most comfortable in my own skin right now. like that I've ever been in my life. So I think
Yeah.
it when you're comfortable on camera, then you can actually do the work well. Then you can actually get into the entertaining people, and then you're not so worried that you're going to make a mistake every 3 seconds and oh my god, they're going to find out that I don't know what I'm talking about. It's like, no, you do. Or like in my case, I do. I've done this for long enough. I know what I'm saying. I understand, so I think that's important.
Oh, those are both very, very good pieces of advice. If you could guest appear on someone else's show of your choosing, who would you want to sit down and have pick your brain?
I would kind of want someone to like psychoanalyze me. So like, sorry.
You want to be on Dr. Phil? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
No, because like he's illegal or something. Doesn't he like not even have like a legal doctorate or whatever?
That's probably true.
But yeah, like I think I'd want someone to explain like why I am the way I am. Like all the things that drive my husband crazy about me, like I'd want them to break that down and be like, this is why you're like this.
The only famous show I could think of is Dr. Phil, though.
I know. You know what I think of, though? I think of Dr. Laura Schlesinger, which is like a radio show that used to air like at like 2 a.m. or something, and people would call in and like tell her their problems.
She an old lady? Like a really old lady?
Yeah.
And she was fantastic, wasn't she?
I know. And my sister and I, when we were like 10, used to listen to her.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
Shoot, I know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah, she was fantastic.
Yeah. So I'd want her to like get into like my nitty gritty and explain why I am the way I am.
Okay, your final one.
Okay.
The most random place you've ever reported from, where it could be the weather,
oh my God,
it could be the stadium, it could be the people, it could be all of them mixed together.
Okay. So I think it's actually kind of like a running joke now at CBC/Sportsnet, because I worked in Lloyd and because I've been so many places. I think they always try to find the farthest place and send me. And I always say yes, because I still always say yes, because I love it. I meet new people. It's so great. I'm down for whatever. So I have been to Ituna, Saskatchewan, which was great. And most recently for Hockey Day, I was in, oh my gosh, why can't I'm drawing a blank now? It was northern Manitoba. Oh my gosh, why can't I'm so embarrassed now that I can't remember it because I was just there. So we flew, I was 1,000 kilometers north of Winnipeg. So it was like minus, like honestly, it was minus, like 45. Churchill, Manitoba.
Okay.
Yeah, so I got to go to Churchill, Manitoba for Hockey Day. And it was awesome. I loved it. And like I cannot wait to take my family back.
What was it about Churchill?
So it's literally called the polar bear capital of the world.
Correct. Yeah.
Because of where they're situated, like the peninsula, and they've got the bay on one side and they have the river on the other side. And we tried to see the Northern Lights. We didn't get lucky. I actually saw the Northern Lights when I was in Lloyd, crazy enough.
Do you know? Whoa. I suppose, no, you're in the city. So you don't see the Northern Lights at all where you're at?
No.
Really?
Yeah, no, not at all. It stinks. And when I was in Lloyd, I was living, was it East Lake was the name of our apartments? I loved it because there was all like the canola fields right near there. And so I used to love the smell. Everybody at work thought I was crazy, but I really liked the smell. And I remember one night I was on my balcony talking to my mom, and I was like, oh my God, Mom, I know you're going to think I sound crazy, but I swear to God, I think there's like a UFO or something going on tonight. I was like, the sky is green. And she's like, Car, have you been drinking? And I was like, no. Like, she was like, well, and then I said, oh my God, I think it's the Northern Lights. So yeah, I got to see the Northern Lights in Lloyd. But so Churchill is really famous for Northern Lights, polar bears, and beluga whales.
I tell you what, you're making me happier and happier. I live exactly where I do, because like the Northern Lights is just kind of like I don't want to say a standard thing. I don't want to make it not seem like it's
I
not the
know.
crazy cool thing it is, but I mean, you see it quite a bit. Like it's
Yeah,
it's
no, we
awesome.
get nothing here. Nothing. No. So yeah, but Churchill was amazing. The people there were great. I got to go dog sledding. And yeah, it was really cool. We saw an Arctic fox. It was awesome.
Well, I really appreciate you hopping on. It's been a pleasure to have you. And
Likewise.
maybe, who knows, maybe down the road I'll try and convince you to come back on for another time.
Yeah, you just let me know. I mean, my Lloyd connections are, yeah, I've made so many. So anytime.
Well, thanks again.
And if anyone from Lloyd is listening, if you're ever in the Toronto area, you know how to get a hold of me. Give me a shout, say hello. I'll show you around Sportsnet. It'll be great.
Cool. Well, thanks again for hopping on.
Okay, and if Bill Spence is listening, you still owe me a drink.
Oh, Bill Spence, you getting called out.
Dun, 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 dun. I just always like to chirp Bill because he was always so kind to me, especially his wife. So,
Yes, Lisa.
well, I know Lisa runs the show in that household, so.
Well, that shouldn't surprise too many listeners.
All right. Well, thanks again, Sean. I really appreciate it. And Lloyd, I got nothing but love for you. So, yeah, if anybody's ever in the Toronto area, hit me up, and I'll try to repay some of the hospitality that you all showed me.
Right on. Well, thank you.
Okay. Take care.
Hey, folks, thanks again for joining us today. If you just stumble on the show and like what you hear, please click subscribe. Remember, every Monday and Wednesday, a new guest will be sitting down to share their story. The Sean Newman Podcast is available for free on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever else you find your podcast fix. Until next time.